So the evidence is there. What I'm trying to do for you is put it together, that it's not random, it's not chaotic, we're actually being attacked. Come on, machine. Again, the papers are beginning to pick it up. Or is this propaganda designed to wear you down? It's a bit of both. But we're talking about slow death by the state. And I'm sure you can feel this closing in now. You can't drive your car without worrying about a camera. You've got to deal with your rubbish correctly. You can't say the wrong thing. It's closing in all the time. But this is where you've got to read the papers properly, because in the whole paper here was a tiny paragraph talking about Labour's involvement with the Soviet agent Jack Jones. Now, there was a big article in one paper a few weeks ago pointing out that Jack Jones was intimately connected with the Soviet regime. He was a paid agent and he was a person selecting Labour candidates. The evidence is there when we dig it up. If you say to me, but all the communists went away and disappeared and became nice people, no, they didn't. So something's going on in the background, and if we read the papers properly, we can see it. Now, this is something that's cropped up all over the place. Nasty things with children. And when we started the newspaper, I did not have any idea of what calls we would get and what people would say. They told us fantastic stories about what was happening with children. And when we investigated, we found that they were telling the truth. So here's the papers talking about social service Stasi. I can tell you that social services can turn up on your doorstep and take your children away, and you cannot do anything about it. If you think you would fight or hit them or complain or get a solicitor or get a policeman, I can tell you it will do nothing. Because at the moment, the social services have been given the power of the Stasi, including secret courts. Judges condemn foul play on adoptions. Well, this is pretty ironic because it's the judges who are facilitating the foul play by covering up in court. And this is the dangerous stuff. Here's Rachel. She's not bright enough to have children. Do you know which step that's taken you to? The next step is Rachel's not bright enough to live. Let's get rid of Rachel. Let's get rid of the disabled people. Where was that policy? Germany. Where did the psychology come from? Tavistock Institute, in my view. Social workers ban a young woman from her own wedding, whether she's bright enough to get married. The state can tell you whether you can fall in love and get married. This is disgusting. This is Britain. And we need to really wake up and understand how close to the knife edge we are. I'm an optimist. I've seen some tremendous things over the last 6 months where people are waking up, but we need to get out and really tell people that they've got to wake up very quickly. Now, this is a story which I hope you'll have a look at in the UK column and on the internet. It's about a young girl, well, she's now a lady, Down syndrome, but for a period of her life she was raped repeatedly by a paedophile gang, which included judges and sheriffs and social workers and her carers, men and women, and they included their children as well. A crime was definitely committed because the evidence is there, and this lady's brother died under violent circumstances when he discovered what was going on. But to date, the police, Grampian police, have failed to undertake a proper investigation, although the lady has been paid £8,500 criminal injuries damages. Well, how can they pay her damages if there was no crime? Well, of course, there was a crime, but the crime was covered up because the crime involves people at the highest levels of the state. If you go onto the UK column website, you can click on and watch a man called Robert Green giving you the full picture about what happened to this girl and how it was covered up. And if you say to yourself, I can't watch something like that, you need to, because if we don't confront evil, we're not going to sort it out. This was given to me not very long ago. It's basically a piece of text written by a young girl the night before she was taken away by social services. I'm not going into care, I'm not going into care, I'm not going into care. Dear God, please stop those nasty social workers taking me away. And she then wrote out the Lord's Prayer. And the next morning she was taken away with her sister. Now, I'm a relative newcomer to what's going on with our children in this country, but I can tell you I am absolutely horrified at stories from hundreds of mothers and fathers from across the country who tell a template. Their lives were normal, there's some event, and the next minute social services are taking their children away. This letter is from another little girl. Please, please, please help me. I'm still in pain. This girl was taken away from her mother. I can't give you the name of either of them because I can be put in prison, because this comes under child family law. She had a condition called Zollinger's, which is multiple perforations of the gut, like an ulcer. It is intensely painful, so that the pain radiates through your spine. She was only 11, 12 years old, and social services told her she was imagining the pain. So they took her from her mother after making out the mother had mental problems, which she certainly didn't, and that girl has never been reunited with her mother. I sat in court in South Wales and I listened as a judge, prevented the mother from having 4 witnesses who were all counsellors, prepared to testify an oath that their counsel had broken the law in kidnapping this young lady. Meanwhile, he allowed the local authority to have 2 witnesses from social services. I've been there, I've seen it. If we cannot protect our children, we've really nearly lost our country. Hundreds of cases with evidence, with recordings, with transcripts from court talking about children being deliberately taken from their parents. Well, here he is, I hope. Come on, Tony.
Yes.
You now know, because Claire Short was one lady brave enough to stand up and say this man misled Parliament. And if he misled Parliament to take the country into a war against a terror threat which has been created, isn't he as big a war criminal as Saddam Hussein? But at the moment, nothing's happening to him. Why? Because the same judges that allowed this to happen, the same law lords, are actually protecting these people. I'm going to suggest to you this man is unbelievably dangerous, and the other people he worked with. And if you think I'm soft on the Conservatives, I'm coming to them. Come on, here we are. There's probably going to jump another one. Sorry, come back. Well, here he is. Here's another one of them. The papers are talking about this man lying in producing the case for taking the country to war. But he's not in prison at the moment. We've got people in prison for failing to pay £500 of whatever it is, local tax. But this man's still outside. Why? Because the country is nearly broken down completely. This is what it's really about. Do you know why they only tell you the people who've died in Afghanistan? Because that's the low number. Every time somebody's killed, on average on a battlefield, 5 to 6 people